Alright, we are on lesson 3.5, which is over applications. So we're looking at some real world problems, things, how this can be used in real life. Now this tends to be a little more difficult for people because you have to come up with the equation yourself. I'm not just giving you the problem and say, here, do this. You've got to read it, you've got to come up with the equation. So some people don't like that, or they're not as good at that because they just don't like to read. So we're going to practice some of these. The other thing is there's no one set way to do every problem. So you may have a problem on a test that doesn't read exactly like one of these. But I'm going to try to do several different types of problems.
Are we going to have quizzes today?
No, I'm going to try to do several different problems with you today that you can use on other problems as kind of a guide. So number 1 says, Landon babysits and works part-time at the water park over the summer. 1 week he babysat for 3 hours and worked at the water park for 10 hours and made $109. The next week he babysat for 8 hours and worked at the water park for 12 hours and made $177. How much does Landon make per hour at each job? So when we start these problems, the first thing you're going to write down is, what are we finding? What am I actually trying to figure out? Somebody tell me. What he gets paid per hour at each job. So we have 2 jobs. And what letters or what variables do you think would make sense for this problem? W and B. And I'm actually going to put the B first because that's the one that's always listed first. So B represents, don't just put babysitting. What about babysitting are we finding? How much he gets paid for babysitting. So I'm just going to put money for babysitting. It's the cost, or his daily pay rate. Hourly pay rate, sorry. And then W would be his pay for the water park. So now you have to use the information that's in the word problem to write out 2 equations. You will always have 2 equations. So if you're given information, it's going to be most likely in one of your equations. So how do you figure out, or how, if you have a job, how do you estimate what your paycheck is going to be? How do you know what it's supposed to be? Or do you just wait for your paycheck and have no idea?
Depends what you get paid by the hour.
Okay, so what do you do with what you get paid by for an hour?
You multiply it by how many hours you have.
You multiply it by how many hours. So if we know that he did 3 hours of babysitting, I would multiply that by how much he gets paid, which is B, because we don't know. So I'm going to have 3B, but he also does what? The water park. So he did 10 hours at the water park and he made $109. So you have both of those added together. What would a second equation look like? He gave us a different week, so it's going to be set up the same. But we have different numbers. 8B plus 12W equals 177. And so technically you could do elimination with this problem, but it would be a lot easier to use the RREF in your calculator. So remember, we turn this into a matrix. So we take those numbers, put them in a 2 by 3 matrix, and then get your calculator ready because I'm going to remind you how to type this in. You do second. And then you go down to the button that has an X with the -1 exponent. You scroll over to math. And then you scroll either up or down to this B with the RREF. Hit enter. And then you type in your matrix, alpha zoom. Now, does it make sense, or would it be likely or possible for you to have decimals as your answer? Do you have to get paid a whole number per hour? No, likely you don't. A lot of times it's $7.50, $8.25, $9.30. So it would make sense if I had a decimal or not. Now, you're probably not going to see like a negative number. Okay, that wouldn't make sense. So whenever you get your answer...
The answer button on this calculator is feeling really stiff. I don't know why.
So whenever you get your answer, think about, does it make sense? Does 10.5 make sense for my problem? Is it likely that he could get paid $10.50? Yeah, makes sense. So for babysitting, it's $10.50 per hour. The top number is always the first variable. So we started with B, then we had W.
Stiff though.
Somebody might have had something on their fingers when they were using it. I'm not sure. So you always want to line up your variables. Okay, you can't flip them. But the first one is B, so that top number is my babysitting. And then the water park, how much does he make? $7.75 per hour. If you're talking about money, at least in your final answer, make sure that you have 2 decimal places and a dollar sign. We always want to use units on these word problems. Are there any questions? Number 2, you are running a concession stand at a basketball game. You're selling hot dogs and sodas. Each hot dog costs $1.50 and each soda costs 50 cents. At the end of the night, you made a total of $78.50. You sold a total of 87 hot dogs and sodas combined. How many hot dogs and how many sodas were sold? So what are my 2 variables? H and S. That's what I would use. And so what does H represent? What about, don't just put hot dogs, be more specific. You need to know, if I'm finding a number of hot dogs, should I have a decimal? You're not going to sell half of a hot dog. Should you use a dollar sign? If you sell 12 hot dogs, it's not $12, it's 12 hot dogs. So you need to know kind of your units, what you're finding. Alright, so we first get some money information with a total. So how would I put that into an equation? So you said 150 plus 0.50 equals 78.50. Well, you're missing some variables. 150H, because you take the number of hot dogs times the $1.50. and then 0.5 S. So be careful there. So it's $1.50 times however many hot dogs, and then 50 cents times however many sodas, and we got $78.50 in our money box. We also know, because we've been keeping track of how many items we sold, and we know that we sold 87 items. So what am I going to do with that 87 in an equation? Nope. Because I didn't sell an equal amount necessarily. So I couldn't divide it by 2. Think about your variables. What can you do with your variables to make an equation?
Solve for it, so it like solve for.
I want to write something that looks something kind of like that. How do I get 87? What is that? Where is that? What is that? It's the total of what? Okay, so how would you find a total of everything?
Divide.
How do you find a total? You add the number of hot dogs and I add the number of sodas together, right? If I sold 50 and 37, that would be 87 total. So it's the number of hot dogs, which is H, plus the number of sodas, which is S, and that equals 87. Remember, H is the number of hot dogs. S is the number of sodas. And then we put that into a matrix. What number do I use if I don't see a number? 1. Yep. So we're going to go to RREF. Now, would this one make sense if you had decimals? No. So if you get decimal answers, it's probably not right. Yeah, I should. How many of you did 8 just like I did? Now those numbers make more sense. 35 and 52. So what is the 35? 35 hot dogs. And how many sodas? 52. Good. Any questions? Let's go to number 3. Marcy bought a total of 20 used books and CDs at a yard sale for a total of $54.50. Books cost $1.50 and CDs cost $5. We want to know how many of each she bought. So what are my variables? B and C. Technically, you can use any letter you want, but in my brain, B and C makes sense. So what does B represent? What about the books? How many? The number of books. And C is the number of CDs. So the first thing that I'm given is about the 20. Well, what is 20? It's the total of how many. So it's how many books and how many CDs all combined. So how would I write that as an equation? Similar to number 2.
150 B.
The 150 has to do with the cost. We're not working with cost yet. We're just doing the number of books and the number of CDs combined.
20 B. No, wait, hold on.
What did I do in number 2?
You did like the H and the S, so B, B, C.
Yep, B. So B is my number of books plus my number of CDs. So however many books I got, however many CDs, that equals 20. So total number of items is 20. And then we can work with the cost. So books are $1.50 each, and CDs are $5 each. So what would this equation look like?
150 B plus 5C.
Equals 54.50. One 120, 1.5, 54.5.
13 and 7.
When you're writing in your matrix, you don't have to put 1.50. But as your final answer, then if it was money, then you would need to do that. But when you're just typing it in the calculator, it doesn't matter.
13 books and 7 CDs.
Okay, good.
I'm already feeling so worked up.
Pardon this interruption, but at this time, Mr. Matt Whitaker sent out an email, and those students, non-official dress students, need to report to his classroom. So check your email.
So, yep, we get 13 and 7. And because I had the B first, that means 13 books and 7 CDs. Number 4. You and a friend go to Tacos Galore for lunch. You order 3 soft tacos and 3 burritos, and your total bill is $11.25. Your friend's bill is $10 for 4 soft tacos and 2 burritos. How much do soft tacos cost? How much do burritos cost? So what are my variables? S and B. If you use T, that's fine too. So what does the S represent?
Soft.
What about the soft tacos? It's the cost of the taco. And B would be what? What cost of the burrito? Be specific. So we're going to have an equation with your order and an equation with your friend's order. So what would our first equation look like? 3S. Got to put your variable because it's 3 times the cost. Plus 3 times the cost of the burritos. And that equals $11.25. And then what about the friend's bill? 4S and 2B equals 10. Good.
Put that in the thing.
Yep. goes in a matrix. You can type that into your calculator. Would this one be okay if it had decimals? Yeah, you don't have to have everything doesn't have to be a whole number cost.
$1.25 for the tacos and $2.50 for the burritos.
Perfect. Ah. So, yep, I do get $1.25 for my soft taco. And then the burrito is $2.50.
Please don't make us do any more of these.
Oh, we still have tons of time. We have 20 minutes left. Four more. We can get through them.
One more.
Four more. Number 5. There are two numbers. This one looks a lot different. If you add the numbers, you get a sum of 12. If you subtract the two numbers, the difference is 4. Find the two numbers. Now, I know you can probably do it just by thinking about it, but I want you to do it with systems of equations. So what could my two variables be? Variable is your letters. Are there any specific letters that just jump out? It really doesn't matter. So pick two. A and B. So we have two numbers. A can be my first number, and B could be my second number. It doesn't really matter. So I got two equations. If you add the numbers, you get a sum of 12. How would I put that into an equation? A plus B equals 12. If you subtract the numbers, A minus B equals 4. So this would be 1, 1, 12. What would my second row be? 1, negative 1, 4. Good. So put that in your RREF in your calculator. And what are the two numbers? 8 and 4. Excellent. Any questions?
Are we done with this?
We're almost done. Number 6. The school that Stephanie goes to is selling tickets to a choral performance. On the first day of ticket sales, the school sold 3 adult tickets and 1 child ticket for a total of $38. The school took in $52 on the second day by selling 3 child tickets and 3 adult tickets and 2 child tickets. Find the price of an adult ticket and the price of a child ticket. So what would my two variables be? A and C makes sense to me. And what would I use for A? What is A? Well, what does A represent? price of adult ticket. And then C would be the price of the child ticket. Good. See if you can. So for those that are struggling a little bit, your equations should be 3a plus 1c equals 38. 3a plus 2c equals 52. I will tell you, the numbers you get are backwards from what you think they should be. I need to go reword this problem and fix it. How much does an adult ticket cost?
14.
How much is an adult? The first number. 8. The top number is your first letter, which is A. How much does a child ticket cost? 14. So we can pretend that the child ticket also comes with popcorn and pop and a stuffed animal or something. A balloon. I don't know. That's why it's more. Any questions? Number 7.
Y cleaned out her purse and found 23 quarters and dimes.
Yep.
When she continued her money, she had $4.10. How many quarters does she have and how many dimes?
Good.
Also, I know she has a name, but the hole punch only gives out the Y, so
we
we're going to
can-
call her Y
Well,
for this.
I think it's Amy. I think it's supposed to be Amy. Cleaned out her purse.
Whatever her name is, only her Y is
Okay, that's
viewable.
fine.
So from this point, we're calling her Y.
Go ahead. That's fine. Alright, so what are the two variables? Q and D. What does Q represent? What about the quarters? The number of quarters. What about the other one? The number of dimes. So that first little bit of information that it gives us is that she had 23 coins, just quarters and dimes. So how do I put that in an equation? Yep. Q, my number of quarters, and my number of dimes added together equals 23. So Q plus D equals 23. And then we also have the total amount of money. So how do I put that into an equation? It's not going to be Q plus D because that would be the number of coins that I had. Don't subtract. How do you? How much that each of them are worth?
5 and 10.
Yep. So a quarter is 25 cents, which is 0.25. So we have 25 cents times my number of quarters, and then I add the 10 cents, which is 0.10, times the number of dimes, and that equals 410. So if you have 7 quarters, you would multiply that by 0.25. So in my matrix, I use 1, 1, 23. Okay, hold on. I'm not there yet. And then 0.25, 0.10, and 410. would it make sense to have a decimal on this one? No, because you're not going to have a part of a quarter. So you should have whole numbers. Alright, so we get 12 quarters and 11 dimes.
Yes, so Y has 12 quarters and 11 dimes in
Yes.
her puny little purse. Can we move on to
Yep.
and can we move away from Y and move on to Kent now?
Yes. So you're going to work with Kent, the same setup of the problem, and I want you to work on this one by yourself. But before you do that, how much is a penny worth?
1 cent.
It's 0.01, not 0.1. When it's 1 cent, it's 0.01. So pay attention to that.
Great, we're done.
Alright, so I'm just going to skip up to the equations. So the first bit of information, it told me the value, so the total amount of money. And so that's where I use the value of each coin with the total amount of money. So if a penny is worth 1 cent, I'm going to take 1 cent times the number of pennies, which is P. Plus, nickels are worth 5 cents, so 0.05 N. So when we're getting the value of all of my coins, that totals up to 198. And then I have the 82. That's just the number of coins that I have. I don't care how much they're worth. So that would just be P, the number of pennies, plus N, the number of nickels, combines to be 82 coins. So your matrix should be 0.01, 0.05, 198. If you had your equations flipped, you should get the same answer.
Well, then I don't know what happened.
Look to make sure you had 0.01,
I didn't put 0.05.
0.05. If you just put 0.5, that's 50 cents.
I just put 5.
Yeah, so that's $5. 182. That would be like if I said how many $1 bills and $5 bills, you would just use a 1 and a 5, not a 0.01 and a 0.05. So how many pennies?
83.
I only have 82 coins total. So how many pennies? Did you say 83? Oh, I thought you said 83.
I said 23.
I keep doing that. 0.01, 0.05, 1.98, 182. So yeah, it's 53 pennies and 29 nickels. Good. Yay, we got